Mother, man.
What's up, everybody? Mike Eisenhauer. I'm from Luna In Sanguinem. You're listening to Metal Mayhem.
Spreading faster than a case of the clap in a trailer court. Able to shatter eardrums within a 666-mile radius. A podcast more brutal than all the rest. It's Murder Metal Mayhem! This is Pete Altieri with the Murder Metal Mayhem podcast, and I've got the privilege of doing this interview with Mike Eisenhauer, the guitarist, songwriter, and lyricist of the Chicago band Luna In Sanguinem. I've been jamming the hell out of you guys lately, and I totally dig it, and thanks, Mike, for taking the time out to talk to me today.
Dude, Pete, what's up?
Hell
what's
yeah.
up, everybody listening? Hell yeah, man. No, we appreciate every little bit of help we get, man. And you're doing a lot for us, and we really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. And I mean, we're even chopping arms off and gouging them and putting our name in them. So we're all about spreading the love, and definitely we all love metal here. And as I was telling you before we got started, I got my buddy CK behind me, our fallen co-host who's with us in memory always when we do the metal segment, and he used to do some of these interviews with me. So we got the cardboard cutout, so he's always here with us. And of course, I got those creepy masks up there in the corner. I got the Bundy and the Ramirez that you can see in the shot there. So,
awesome.
So yeah, very cool. Definitely in a metal frame of mind here. Now, Mike, I'm sure, like me, some of my listeners that are not familiar with the band are probably wondering about the name. So I thought, let's get that out of the way, because I'll be honest, when I first saw it, I thought it was Spanish, because I just saw Luna. And I'm thinking, okay, I know what that is. I know a little Spanish, enough to be dangerous. But then when I started really looking at it, I'm like, wait a second, that's not Smith. And then I started looking it up, and I was really intrigued. So why don't you share that?
Actually
with
Latin.
us? That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. What we ended up doing is we just basically had a whiteboard, and we were, like, man, we can't have a name that everybody else has. Or at least if we have a name that someone else has, it's not the entire name, because there are other bands named Luna Coil and all that kind of stuff. But we were like, we need to have something with the blood moon, dude. It was like a blood moon at the time. It was just looked really cool. We were like, man, what can we do? So we started putting in names in the Latin to English translator.
Oh, cool.
And just started, jotting down stuff on a whiteboard. And then we picked what was the best. And we came up with Luna In Sanguinem, which actually means under the blood moon. So...
yeah, that's very, very
cool.
interesting. I like using Latin in some of my writing for names, to come up with names that have like symbolism. I think Latin's kind of cool for that sort of thing. So I think that's interesting for the band name. So yeah, I've definitely got schooled on that. That's really cool. I think things that generate conversation, I think, makes it more interesting.
Yeah, and then with the blood moon and the logo, it's kind of our little thing, so.
Yeah, no, I think that's freaking awesome. Now, you're the guitar player of the band, so I always curious when I talk to different musicians. I'm a bass player by trade, but what guitarists were you listening to as a kid that made you say, man, I want to play some guitar?
Probably the very first one that made me really say that was Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath.
Nice. The riff master.
Yeah, dude. That's if anybody ever says, well, the stuff he writes seems to have a little bit of a groovy, bluesy type aspect to it, I would say that's probably why. But because even to this day, some of them old Black Sabbath riffs are just
legend. Yeah, I mean, as a bass player, Geezer Butler. Yeah, Geezer Butler was my inspiration as a bassist, so I could completely relate that bluesy feel to it, but ridiculously heavy and just so iconic, and how anybody could even argue that Black Sabbath didn't invent heavy metal. I just can't have the conversation.
Yep.
I
I
just
agree,
can't.
man.
So that's cool with
Yeah.
Tony Iommi, and very interesting the way, you know, that story about how he lost his fingertips and how that's actually what made him create that sound, because he needed that distortion to help, you know, because he couldn't press down and it limited the string gauge, had to be real light. And I'm like, that is the
probably
coolest thing.
Kept everything a little more simplistic, probably for that reason too, which gave him
Probably.
that cool groove.
Yeah.
The evil sounds, you know?
Yeah, it's unbelievable, but I'd love, you know, learning about things like that, because you think, like, growing up, same thing, like, you know, Black Sabbath was just like, you know, the masters, and the riffs stand up. I mean, you listen to that shit now and it's just unbelievable.
Oh,
love that stuff.
And then I was listening to a lot of Testament and Metallica back in the mid 80s and Wasp. And,
okay.
You know, so I found heavier things like Slayer, you know, and then when they came out with Rain and Blood. So, yeah, definitely Slayer, guitars, you know, Jeff Hanneman for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Plays.
Yeah.
Just because I play heavier stuff now and I listen to a lot of death metal and all that, I still, you know, if you really peel back the layers, it's going to pull up stuff like that. So,
no, I mean, that's, I think, the natural progression. It sounds like we grew up around the same time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I was listening to 80s metal, you know, Maiden, Dio, Ozzy, Sabbath, and then as I started getting into the heavier stuff like Slayer and Venom, and getting into Merciful Fate and shit like Bathory, and started getting more extreme, then that's when, you know, things were kind of happening, and that I think that's a natural progression. I think that's that makes sense to me in my world. That's for sure. That's why when we used to play with bands that were younger than us, I had to remind myself, like, they didn't come up when that shit was going on. So their influences are going to be like Slipknot and stuff like that, because that's what they were listening to when they were the age I was when I was listening to Ozzy and Sabbath and Maiden and all that shit, and just kept growing into it. So
and that's why I don't hate on, you know, kids like that, because I know I got friends who are like, oh, they're posers or whatever. I'm like, hey, man, dude, you know, everybody's got to start somewhere.
Right.
And we were born in this era that they grew up in. We probably would be listening to some of the same stuff until eventually find other things, you know?
Exactly. No, I'm with you there. I mean, I'm guilty, though. I still throw the word poser around, but it's more in just in jest than in like being serious about it. So,
yeah.
All right. Now, what about the other guys in the band? Of course, there's the rest of the crew, and it's just you and I talking. But who else you want to introduce the guys, just so our listeners know who's in the band?
Well, I actually started the band with Pat Maxwell. We got together. He was an old friend of mine. We had bands. We were kids together and stuff in junior high school and all that. And we started talking and said, man, we need to get a band together, dude. And he was just split up with his band Wrath he was playing with, and, you know, touring and stuff. And so Pat Maxwell's on drums. And then we, you know, after we had a couple songs I already had written, got those tightened up, we call our old buddy Rod Valdez, who we all went to high school with. He was in a band called the Mentox. We played a lot of shows in Waukegan area, you know, and around the Lake County and stuff out here north of Chicago. Then I was not really wanting to do vocals, because I did do vocals in another band, and I was like, you know what, I would do backup vocals and write the lyrics, but I don't want to actually sing them. I want somebody different. I want it to be a totally different band. I want to do two bands that are the same.
Right.
So I ended up, you know, doing it at first, and people were like, dude, it sounds cool. But when Skip McGullum, a good old friend of ours who was the lead singer for Numbskull, he did the legendary album Ritually Abused, a lot of people probably remember. Yeah. And man, when he approached us at a show at Live Wire Lounge in Chicago and said, hey man, you guys sound killer, dude. He was like, would you let me sing in your band? And I was like, let you? I was like, dude, we were going to ask you.
Yeah, that just meant to be, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I definitely dig the band, all the players. What about the bass player?
Yeah, Rod Valdez.
Oh,
Yep,
that's right. Okay, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, and I love the way he plays too, because he doesn't just want to play like what the root note is, or he doesn't want me to say, "Hey, Rod, could you just play it like this and simplify the riff?"
Right.
He'll like play around with it and try to come up with cool lines. And
no, I definitely dig him. Like I said, I'm a bass player myself, and yeah, I dig him. I dig the whole band, and individually and as a whole. I think you guys are all really good players, but it sounds really good together. And Skip's voice, I did hear that that you had done vocals early on, but then has the album that's currently out, the EP, is that you or is that Skip?
That's Skip.
Okay.
Me and Pat do some backup vocals in there.
Yep. Yeah, I think I saw a video where you were doing some backing vocals, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, emphasize certain things or trade off and stuff,
Right. No, I agree. Now, I really dig that single that you sent me, and you guys did a lyric video for it. And so you want to tell us a little bit about, the song and what it's about, and then, what the lyric video, how that all came to be.
Yeah, it's called Doomsday Network. It's the first single from our album that's going to be coming out. We're just now finishing the mixing and mastering part of it. We just sent some songs back to the studio to tweak out a little bit for us. That album's called Flu World Order.
I like that. I saw the name of that. I thought that was a pretty clever name. Yeah, I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, we're hoping that at least opens a few eyes.
Oh yeah, it'll definitely get some people wound up, I'm sure. Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh damn, yep, there you go. I mean, that's I thought it was very clever and laughed because I'm like, yeah, this is definitely gonna get some people wound up. So
yeah, and we don't really pay attention to anybody that just wants to be a hater, because we're just here to have fun.
Sure.
And sure, music's always had, messages and things of that nature, but
right.
You can't even get proper news half the time anymore anyway. So
no, it's all biased. That's the problem. Somebody's paying for it. So, whenever somebody's paying for it, that's biased. Exactly. Now, with the lyric video, who did that for you guys? It really looks cool.
It's a company called YOD, Yod. Yod Digital, I think it is. He's on Facebook. I'd be able to send anybody that was interested a link to his page. Yeah, he actually had a hard time doing that for us because his father passed away. So we were like, oh man, we're gonna have to give this guy some time. Right. We told him, all right, we understand, don't worry, just give us some time. He ended up sending it back to us with some stuff in there that we didn't it totally went against everything that we believed in. So we said, okay, wait, no, we don't support those organizations. Can you take that back and fix it for us? So it took a long time. We were getting real impatient with him, and finally he came through, and it was worth the wait. That's good. I think he did a good job. He kind of ran with it once we gave him the proper direction. So a lot of the imagery was his idea.
Yeah, that's cool. No, that was good. I see a lot of those, and I thought that was a good one. You guys did a good job with that.
People need to have hope in their country again, I think. So maybe that'll help.
Yeah, no, I think, with anything, unfortunately, a lot of things today are real black and white, and you get people taking sides, and whatever, side you're on, I guess, you want to hear the rallying cry of people you agree with. So I don't think there's anything wrong with people.
We try to avoid that. We're like, okay, if we realize we're playing in an area in a club where people are like, left or right or whatever it is, we just kind of do our thing. Right. We don't really care what people are into. We just kind of say, okay, well, if you don't like what we're doing, you don't have to listen to it.
Right.
And I feel the same way. I'm like, hey, if I don't like what somebody does, I'm not going to listen to it.
Right.
So, that's how it is.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that.
Have fun if we can. It's just metal.
Right. Exactly. Now, you guys are pretty active in the Chicago area. Of course, that's where you're based from. But what's the scene like up there? I'm removed from Illinois metal now for 5 years, so I'm a little detached. But what's going on currently up there post, the craze of the 2020 and all that?
Yeah, it seems like, I don't know. The shows are hit or miss because there's so much always going on. So you can't really let that affect you. You just got to go ahead and go with the flow. You could have a packed show one night, come back to another area of Chicago the next weekend, and there's 10, 20 people, and you just play like you're playing to 1,000. And you just say, okay.
Yep.
And I guess it happens everywhere.
But
yeah. It seems to have been a lot worse since now all the tours have come back. It's like everybody's like just frothing at the mouth because their favorite bands are back and they're on tour or something, So you got that to compete with. Generally, most of the bands get along and help each other out. There's always going to be those jealous hater types that, oh, you didn't put me on every single festival you did or every single show you do. And then they'll go behind your back talking about you, and you just go, okay, scratch them off and move on, find new friends.
Yeah.
So there's always that.
You're going to have that. In the 90s and early 2000s, I started and ran an organization called Heavycore. That was a union of metal bands.
That's where I remember your band name from. I remember now. Okay.
And that's what I did. And for that very reason, it was like, man, we're all kind of in the same boat, and we had all kinds of, from old school metal to extreme death, grind and everything in between. And the guys had that camaraderie, and I thought that was really cool. I remember a friend of mine was in a band, and they went and played down in St. Louis at the old Creepy Crawl, and there was a bunch of bands there, and nobody knew each other or nobody knew anybody. And so my buddy said, hey, is anybody here in Heavycore? And like almost all of them were. And so they immediately had that, like, oh, that's cool, man, so that just that's cool that because that was a big part of my life, and playing and trying to get bands to help each other instead of trying to hurt each other.
I'm pretty sure I've networked with bands through Heavycore quite a few times.
That's cool. Yeah, very cool.
That was MySpace days, I'm pretty sure.
That was MySpace. Well, actually, MySpace was what started the downfall of it, because the bands were able to do their own networking and promotion. Now, we charged the bands $10 in about the second half of it. We were because there were too many bands. I couldn't keep up with it. So we charged them $10 a year, and it basically just helped offset some of the costs. And we always had people getting pissed off about it. It's like, look, like, I don't have time to keep up with this shit. I need help. So anyway, it was, something that they couldn't really do themselves at that time. But then once MySpace became a thing, and they had that ability to listen to other bands a lot easier, see who's in your area, pick an area like a city you want to go to and find all the metal bands that are there. You could do that stuff on your own. And so I think a lot of bands got away from what we were doing, and we were doing a lot of compilations too. And that became less of a thing as that kind of stuff was happening. And then you started getting the digital and the streaming, and then, we were already done by that point. But it was cool when it lasted, but if I would have had more time to devote to it, I could have just tried to stay with it, and get into the streaming stuff. But so that's good to hear that the bands are getting along for the most part. Like you said, you're always going to have a little of that.
Chicago, all different kind of genres,
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, any tours cooking, Mike, or anything? What's kind of going on in that world with you guys?
Well, we actually have talked to Balmer about joining them, doing some kind of touring.
Oh, that'd be sick, dude.
Yeah. I got guys wanting us to come back down to Florida. We got guys wanting us to go out to Texas. We got a lot of options. We just kind of are in the let's figure everything out phase.
Yeah, because it all costs money, right?
That too, yeah. And then guys, they only got a couple weeks of vacation, and you still got to have a job.
Right.
Things like that.
The age old problem for musicians,
Exactly.
How do you pay the bills?
Do we do like book some festivals and then just shoot off and do some weekends, or do we do a flat out just a couple weeks tour?
Right.
What do we do? So,
well, that's cool. Yeah, the Embalmer
like
thing would be badass. Definitely see you guys with them. We played a show with them at the Central Illinois Metal Fest that Matt Bishop used to do down in Champaign, and
I was there a couple times.
Yeah, those are some good ones. So so we played with them at one of those. That's when I first heard them. I was like completely blown away. Definitely very badass. What about the writing of the music and the lyrics, and how does that get shown to the band, or thrown to the band? I'm sure everybody puts their touches on it, but how does that process work with you guys?
Well, generally, I'll be sitting, just playing my guitar and come up with a song, and I'll show it to the band. Like you say, we may kind of tweak it. Somebody might say, hey, what if you added this into the change or whatever, or something like that, and then sometimes I'll just start with one riff and say, hey, I've been working on this riff that kind of goes on this other riff. What do you guys think? And then if they say, dude, that's killer, I'll come back and work on some more. That's generally how the music part of it goes.
That's cool.
And then lyrically, I'll either have a lyrical concept already in mind, something I would really like to write about, and maybe even a chorus, and then try to build a song around that. Or occasionally I've had times where just a song just came to me after practice. For some reason, I just felt compelled to start playing my guitar again. Maybe I heard something really dark on a movie and it was a really cool synthesizer part. And I was like, wow, man, that just inspired me to just start playing. And then I go off into a tangent of something completely different, create a song, and I start writing lyrics to it with my guitar in my lap and a piece of paper and trying to write and play at the same time somehow. And
dude, the process is so funny because as somebody that did that too, it's like you try to capture it the same way again, and it happens different. It come to you when you're driving driving your car, you're like, that's what we could do with that, but fuck, I'm driving.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I'll just
that's
give
cool.
them a message real quick and say, hey, dudes, I got something to show you at practice.
Right.
They're like, oh, great. Mike's writing more shit.
That's
We'd have
cool.
a lot more songs if we could,
Oh, of course. Of course. That's cool. Now, I like to ask bands this question, Mike, and I pretty much kept it the same way for you. Sometimes it depends where the band is from, but I kept this the same way for you as I've asked the last couple of times. But if you had to pick one of the following to get trampled and killed in a mosh pit at one of your shows, would it be A, Justin Bieber, B, David Draymond, or C, the entire band of Nickelback? You got
That's funny. Just Draymond is actually a cool guy. So
I know. I was gonna say I knew you were from Chicago, and I'm like, I bet he probably knows this dude, or definitely knows people that know this dude. So
yeah, I don't know him personally, but I know people that do, and he's a really cool guy.
He's supposed to be cool. All right, well that's all right.
So I definitely wouldn't throw him in
we'll
there.
We'll leave David alone. All right.
Yeah, we'll leave David alone. Justin Bieber would probably be funny because I could imagine the whimpering crying that he would probably be doing. Right. But I think as metalheads, everyone seems like they probably would enjoy doing it to Nickelback the most.
Plus, you get the whole band too. You get however many of them there are, they're all fucking worthless. Yeah.
Imagine that if a club like Reggie's in Chicago that's easily packed.
Right.
And then you just
throw them out there one at a time. Yeah.
Yeah. And they just start whipping them off the stage. All right. Have at it, boys.
Like the old Roman and Gladiator days.
Big ladies out there.
Oh, boy. Yeah. That could get brutal. Yeah. I had a band from Belgium, Schizophrenia. They were in an interview, and one of them said, do I have to just pick one? Which I thought was funny. So that was good. And I think, too, when it's a band that doesn't have, English as their first language when I ask that question. I'm wondering if they're like, these Americans are just fucked up. Like, what kind of question is that to ask me, So,
yeah.
So anyway, now I also love to ask this question. I've learned about so many great bands this way, but are there any bands you're listening to that our listeners maybe don't know about? Some underground stuff, local, doesn't have to be wherever. It could be some band from Brazil that you like. But I always ask this question, and man, I've had some really good, bands come up in this conversation that become a big fan of.
Oh yeah, man! Wow, there's so many that like I literally have like band overload.
Oh no, I know the feeling. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I didn't realize what great metal there is in Australia, and I went on a kick of listening to some wicked thrash death metal stuff from Australia.
Oh yeah,
one of my favorites, In Malice's Wake. If you haven't heard those guys, go check them out. Similar, I think, a little bit to your style.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, vocally more than anything, but musically too. But they're great. Harlot's a really good thrash band. But yeah, and Malice's Wake is just really badass. There's just a lot of really good ones.
I've been listening to Undeath. Undeath is really cool.
Okay.
200 Stab Wounds is really good.
Yeah.
What's that band? Stabbing in Texas. They're really good. I've listened to a lot of fast, brutal stuff. I go in phases. I may listen to like Judas Priest for a while, but lately I've been on this kick of really brutal stuff. Like still cranking the last Cannibal Corpse album that came out.
Yeah, no, it's badass.
The Narcotic Wasteland. After Luna In Sanguinem went on tour with them, I played a couple shows with them in Chicago. And it really didn't sink in what they were doing to me. I liked it, but I was like, it's so different. To be honest with you, it's different. They're really doing their own thing. It's fucking cool as shit. And that always does take a little bit sometimes to kind of really sink in with you when you something so much different than what all the other bands are doing.
Right.
And then once we started watching them every night, I was like, dude, these guys are fucking amazing, dude.
Where are they from?
Dallas Tyler Wade, he's done so much over the years, but he was I think most known for his time in Nile.
Oh hell yeah.
And it's oh man, they're on tour right now. They did with a tour with Accept, and cool. So they're one of those bands that's able to fit in with like the Malevolent Creation tour, and then after that their next tour is Accept. And they can get away with it. Yeah,
wow,
they can fit in either way.
Narcotic Wasteland, huh?
Yeah,
I'll have to check that out. out. Definitely appreciate that. Yeah, I love to hear about it, and that's, like I said, love passing it on. Mentioned Schizophrenia. That's another band I learned about from asking another band, and love those guys. Yeah, their album is probably one of the best, in my opinion, best metal releases of the year. Really just amazing, really good stuff. Speaking of that, what about you, Mike? What do you think so far in 2022? If you had to name one, is there one album that you could think of that just blows you away this year?
I think that new Cannibal Corpse was the beginning of 22, wasn't it?
I think you're right. I sometimes lose track too, but
that would probably be the one. There's so many, but I think that one probably stands out the most in my head.
That's cool. What did you think of Corpse Grinder's solo album that he did? Did you like that?
It was all right. It wasn't amazing,
cool.
But I thought
it was cool. Yeah, I thought it was cool. Since you said you liked the new Corpse album, I thought I'd ask you that because my co-host Chris, he's a Chris Barnes guy, and we've had that funny argument, of Corpse Grinder or. And that was before this recent bullshit with Barnes. Even before that, he was like all about him, and I'm like, I like.
Well, Tomb of the Mutilated and all that.
Oh, it's great sick, dude. Oh, it's sick. Yeah, for sure. Now, how can our listeners find out more about you guys? I know you're on Facebook. What other social media do you guys use?
Bandcamp, Instagram, Spotify.
I love Bandcamp. I've been getting more into that, and I'm actually paying. I'm actually paying to download the albums that we use on the show oftentimes. So to support the bands, especially when they do the Bandcamp Friday. So anybody listening that's not familiar with Bandcamp, what I suggest you do when you find a band you like is Google their name and then at the end type Bandcamp, and their Bandcamp page will be the first thing that pops up. Link to it. You can download their stuff. The MP3s are better quality than streaming. Believe me, I know from playing them on here. Also, the shirts they've got, all kinds of merch. And I know you guys do that too. So I think that's really cool. And it's a great way to support the bands that are out there. I mean, we're all about supporting the underground. I do it any way that I can myself. Yeah. And so that's cool.
And if you're liking and sharing stuff off YouTube, that helps a lot too.
Yeah, because I know you guys are out there on YouTube as well. So
yeah,
that's cool. Well, we'll definitely link to some of that in the episode description. So if you're listening to this, scroll down and I'll link to the band's webpage and so you can get a hold of them and check them out on whatever platforms you're interested in. But yeah, YouTube is a nice way to do that. But the Bandcamp is great for supporting the cause, of course.
Yeah. LunaInSanguinem.com.
There you go. And you have anything you want to add, Mike? Anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to bring up?
Just that we're going to start, taking a little break this winter because we haven't had one in the 4 years that we've been going, and we've gone really strong. So I think it's time for a mental break so we can come back just ultra rejuvenated. Not that we're waning in any way, but
doesn't hurt, man. Plus some family time is good, right?
Sure. Everyone needs time for themselves,
Yeah.
We were all complaining that we were, like, oh man, we gained a little weight, this and that. Well, time for us to worry about us for a few months and then come back better. And then we can really crank this new album to people out there on the shows, so.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Definitely want to keep me posted on that new album and when that's coming out, so we can pass the word to our listeners. And
Killer.
So I am going to
make sure you guys have one of the first copies.
Awesome. And I'm going to play that new single that you mentioned earlier. I'm going to play that here at the end so our listeners can listen to it, check it all out. There's a lyric video on YouTube. But thank you very much, Mike, for doing this with me. And I hope you guys, get some good label representation if that's how it works out. But if you wind up releasing it yourselves, all the best in whatever you guys are doing. And you're always welcome back here at Murder Metal Mayhem.
Killer. Yeah, either one of those methods is going to be out.
Oh, yeah. Very cool. All right, brother. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Awesome, man. Thanks, Pete.
All right.
democracy. Oppressive chains enveloping. The pattern of conflict never ends. Antagonist bullying never ends. Brought the chaos to our land. Doomsday Network gripping hands. Hunger and blood covering streets. Freedom you last live forbidden. Government cease and desist. Resist, and resist. When martial law shame on it. Citizens rising with words. Shrieking of democracy. Oppressive chains enveloping. The pattern of conflict never ends. Antagonist bullying never ends. Brought the chaos to our land. Doomsday Network gripping hands. Hunger and blood covering streets. Freedom you last live prominent. Genesis will fight, standing blood and right.
Mother, man.